In this week's drive, we see world champion Constable Mansell asking for more. Watch a 200-mile-an-hour lawnmower hit the water. Witness a battle between brothers in Beirut. And join Jarno Trulli in an unusual adventure. All this and more in this week's Drive. We start this week in the heart of London, a busy, bustling city with a severe traffic problem. Last year, a congestion tax was introduced. It's not a place you'd normally think of as a motor racing venue, but hundreds of thousands of Londoners turned out on a sunny Tuesday evening to watch Formula One cars being driven on their streets. The display had to be limited to a narrow course marked with barriers for safety. The course was up Lower Regent Street with the Houses of Parliament as a backdrop and around Piccadilly Circus and Regent Street. And two nearby tube stations, Piccadilly Circus and Oxford Circus, had to be closed because of overcrowding.
I think it's a good opportunity for the crowd to get really close to the cars. Obviously, we cannot do the speeds as quick as we do usually on the racetrack, but just to hear the noise from really up close and to see the cars from really close, I think it's a unique opportunity. And obviously, in such a central area here in London, I think it's going to be a nice show for everyone.
Beside Cristiano, there was Minardi's Zolt Baumgartner, Ferrari's Luca Badoer, former world champ Nigel Mansell on a Jordan, McLaren's David Coulthard, Juan Pablo Montoya, Jenson Button and former F1 driver Martin Brundle in a Jaguar.
I'm ready to go. I got in the car last week and within a couple of laps I was flat out, and then I came in and the engine guy said to me, he said, "How's the power?" And I said, "It's too slow." I mean, when you're flat out in a couple of laps. But I've always said that. I like power, and I'm afraid there's not enough of it in a Formula One car.
Britain's newest Formula One hope, Jenson Button, was impressed with the number of spectators lining the temporary circuit.
Fantastic. The turnout's amazing, and we're just in the first 50 metres of the circuit, so it's great to see so many people here to support it.
To drive around London as well. I mean, God knows how many times we've been here, but not in a Formula One car.
I know, it sounds hilarious, a Formula One car over there starting up when we're in the centre of London, but it's amazing, and I'm really looking forward to it.
And does David Coulthard believe the event's worthwhile?
Yeah, it is. As a British driver, having won the British Grand Prix a couple of times, to come here and have the opportunity to show the Grand Prix cars, and not exactly what they can do, but give people a taste of the sort of noise and excitement of the acceleration of these cars. To do that in the City of London, it would be a dream to imagine that one day we could have a Grand Prix here, but if they can do it in Monte Carlo, which is smaller than Hyde Park, there's no reason why they can't do it here.
The motor manufacturers involved in Formula One never miss a promotional chance to justify their involvement. The new McLaren Mercedes SLR, Maserati Quattroporte, Honda S2000, Renault, Jaguar, BMW 635 and Ford Cabrio were used to parade the drivers in the run-up to the main event. The demonstration was staged to let Londoners see the cars that raced in the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. First off was Mansell, winner of 31 Grand Prix, the 1992 World Championship and the American IndyCar Championship the following year. The event started people, including the drivers, talking about London having its own Formula One Grand Prix, just like Monaco. As Da Matta threads his way through the bumpy streets, a driver's eye view shows just how narrow the course is.
This will be interesting. Let's watch.
Minardi Cosworth driver Zolt Baumgartner took the wheel of one of the team's fleet of 8 two-seater Formula One cars for the unique event. His passenger was Kylie Flynn, fiancée of high-flying financier Lee Amatus, who bid a staggering $275,000 at this year's Monaco Grand Prix Ball charity auction to secure the ride. Williams driver Juan Pablo Montoya said he was going to have some fun and make some smoke for the crowd. He described the notion of London having its own street race as awesome. Former Jordan driver Martin Brundle, who now commentates Formula One races for ITV and many other English-speaking TV channels, borrowed a Jaguar for the day and put on a crowd-pleasing display. Jenson Button's been in brilliant form this season, reaching the podium at 6 of the 11 races to date, although a maiden win has so far eluded him. For him, the display proved that British motor racing fans love Formula One.
If you said that there was 250,000 people there, that is just outrageous. That's bigger than anything we've ever had in Formula One at an event. I think it went down very well. The fans were loving it, and so were we. You know, it was great. It was great, and with the sound between the buildings of a Formula One car at 19,000 revs, it was just an amazing sound and an amazing feeling, because the ground was actually rumbling.
And finally, organisers had to temporarily weld shut over 100 manhole covers to make the road safer for the drivers. A few days later, Michael Schumacher did it again. 10 wins from 11 starts, but he had to fight a resurgent Kimi Raikkonen in a new car at Silverstone. The new McLaren puts Williams under pressure and will please Montoya, who's moving between the teams next year. BAR can still finish second if Sato doesn't crash or blow up. It was a warm and sunny day in Kansas City as drivers lined up for a 300-mile race, the 7th of the year. But even as the green flag flew for the start of a 200-lap event, there was a crash. Scott Sharp checked up to avoid hitting the cars in front of him, but his number 8 Dallara Toyota made contact with the wall and collected the number 12 car of Toru Takagi.
Stop, guys, we're all stopped. There's nothing I can do. We're all wet and stopped.
From the in-car camera in Sharp's car, it's clear that something went wrong with his car and caused the crash. There was a bizarre pit lane incident for British rookie Dan Wheldon. He was signalled away from a pit stop on lap 54, but the fuel hose was still attached to his car, and he pulled over the huge fuel tank. Wheldon finished 9th, despite the near-disastrous incident. Just 25 laps from the finish, rookie driver Jeff Simmons and Kosuke Masuura, first in points among rookies, touched wheels and crashed. That brought out the yellow flag for a caution period that closed up the field. The green flag didn't come out again to restart the race until only 13 laps of the race remained. The race would then produce one of the most exciting and tightest finishes in IRL history, as Indy 500 winner Buddy Rice and Victor Meira of Brazil raced for the checkered flag. They both crossed the finishing line seemingly at the same time. The computer initially said Meira had won, but then recalculated that Rice won in a photo finish. Rice beat Meira by a scant 0.005 of a second, the second closest finish in Indy racing history. The only closer finish was in 2002 when Sam Hornish Jr. beat Al Unser Jr. by 0.0024 of a second. That made it a 1-2 finish for the team co-owned by former Indy 500 winner Bobby Rahal and talk show host David Letterman. The winner's average speed was over 177 miles an hour, and this was just the second IRL victory for Buddy Rice. The first was this year's Indy 500. Rain delayed the start of the NASCAR Pepsi 400 at Daytona, one of only 2 tracks where restrictors are used to keep the cars under 200 miles an hour. Once the rain stopped falling, the track was dried out by trucks fitted with blowers.
Gentlemen, start your engines!
After nearly 2 hours, pole sitter Jeff Gordon led the 43-car field to a yellow flag start. With the track properly dried by the exhausts and tyres of the cars, the caution was lifted on lap 10. 9 laps later, what would be the biggest crash of the race involved Ricky Craven, Matt Kenseth and Ward Burton. Burton burst a tyre and his car slid up the track. As it drifted back down, Kenseth ploughed into him, sending both cars bouncing off the wall. Behind them, Craven got involved, damaging the rear of his car. All three of them returned to the track, but finished in 38th, 39th and 40th positions.
Comes down off the banking, which normally will happen.
With a caution out after Bobby Hamilton's single-car accident on lap 70, Dale Earnhardt led the leaders to pit road on lap 72. On the way out, Earnhardt slipped onto the grass after being pushed out by Brian Vickers and Gordon, losing valuable time. With 12 laps remaining, Earnhardt made the move of the day. He swung down to pass Kurt Busch and Gordon, taking second behind Tony Stewart. Gordon, not to be one outdone by Earnhardt, made a move of his own soon after. With Jimmy Johnson giving him a solid push, Gordon's number 24 Chevrolet took the lead on the 154th of 160 laps, giving Gordon his 68th career NASCAR race, his 5th at Daytona. Gordon's teammate Jimmy Johnson finished in second, 0.143 of a second, or about 2 car lengths behind, his 12th top 5 finish this season. Gordon, who led for 61 laps, became the first driver to win this race after starting from pole position since Cale Yarborough in 1981. The 28th Rally of Lebanon, round 5 in the Middle East Rally Championship, saw 19 special stages over 2 days. Reigning Middle East Rally champ Nasser Al-Attiyah and co-driver Chris Patterson are looking to make up ground on series leader Sheikh Khalid Al-Qasimi. Double winner in Lebanon, Roger Fagali and co-driver Nabil Njim were also hoping for a strong start, as Fagali was looking for a 3rd win in the event. Fagali, though, was expecting a tough challenge from a man who'd already won the rally 3 times, Jean-Pierre Nasrallah, paired with Joseph Matar. The challenge for Fagali, though, came from closer to home. His brother Abdo pushed Roger on day 1, winning the opening stage before dropping to second on stage 2. Roger spent the entire opening day in a frantic battle with his brother over the slippery tarmac stages. When Abdo fitted the wrong tyres to his Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 7 for the final 2 stages of the leg and slid off the road, Roger was able to capitalise and started the final day with a 48.3 second advantage. Roger wasn't troubled from then on and duly went on to take victory as Abdo consolidated his position over the closing stages to claim 2nd place in a family 1-2. While petrol-electric hybrid engines have been widely hailed for their fuel savings, they're still an expensive option on a limited number of usually small cars. However, 2 new engines will offer dramatically improved fuel economy on some American-made pickup trucks and sport utility vehicles, with a system for V8 engines called displacement on demand.
What we do is we start the vehicle on 8 cylinders. Once you're up to cruising conditions in the higher gears, where you don't have to have all the torque that an 8-cylinder engine provides, we can switch into 4-cylinder modes. And now you operate as a 4-cylinder engine with the fuel savings of a 4-cylinder engine.
Displacement on demand uses a 32-bit computer to seamlessly switch between 8 and 4 cylinders, shutting off fuel to half the cylinders when it would be imperceptible to the driver. It'll be standard on the 2005 V8 engines in Chevrolet and GMC pickups. For people needing a vehicle before then, the existing mid-sized truck engines have been improved with unique designs and lighter, more efficient materials. One of these is a new inline 5-cylinder engine made for GM's light trucks.
This engine offers the power of a V6 at 220 horsepower. It is class leading, but with the fuel efficiency that's most common with a 4-cylinder. That is about 15% better than the V6s that have been out there or are currently available from most competitors.
Both engines had to be thoroughly tested so that performance and horsepower matched or exceeded the engines they replaced, because as much as most people want to save fuel, power and versatility are still the main reasons people buy trucks and SUVs. So, what are the most important ingredients for a great action movie? A big-name star, beautiful women, a story about someone out to even the score, and most important, a dramatic car chase. Or, in the case of The Last Ride, car chases. In fact, the classic 1960s American muscle car and its modern incarnation were cast as characters in this new film.
The car was a character in the movie. It was a character when it was written, and I think the GTO fit well for that. It spans the generations, as does this story.
In fact, the latest GTO isn't an American car at all. It's built in Australia as a Holden Monaro and just badged as a Pontiac GTO for overseas markets. Action movie star Rob Cohen, creator of The Fast and the Furious, approached Pontiac about resurrecting the 1969 GTO, dubbed The Judge, for a central role, and Pontiac leapt at the chance.
It's incredible. I hate to say that I feel like I'm an agent for this vehicle, but I am. You can't do this with every vehicle. You can only do it with vehicles that truly have the ability to perform, especially perform in action movies, and this car does it 100%.
So why make a car the star in a Hollywood movie? Actress Nadine Velasquez has an answer.
It's sexy, it's fast, it's powerful. I think that's what people are drawn to.
For Dennis Hopper, whose character drove the Judge in the movie, it brought back memories.
I think I drove a lot of GTOs in various movies, you know? Bad guys always drive GTOs, you know? So they were usually black, you know, and rumbly. Sitting in some shadow somewhere in some alley, you know? That kind of thing. Buckle up.
St. Julia de Loria in the south of Andorra provided the rugged terrain for the 6th round of the 2004 Outdoor Trials World Championship. Adam Raga was 3rd in the title going into the weekend, but moved into 2nd after his 4th win of the season. The Spaniard consolidated his title challenge with a great first run, conceding just 3 penalties over the 15 sections. Raga took more than double that on his second run, but a total of 10 penalties was enough to secure victory. Despite finishing 2nd, Takahisa Fujinami increased his lead in the championship. Fujinami took 17 penalties over his 2 runs, but is now 14 championship points ahead of Raga, with only 5 scoring days remaining in the season. Albert Cabastani has had only 1 podium so far this year, but the Spaniard would claim 3rd place in Andorra with a total of 31 penalty points. Kenichi Kuriyama achieved his best result of the season to date. The Japanese beta rider pipped Mark Friescher to 4th place by 1 mark with a combined total of 34 penalties. In contrast, 7 times and defending champion Dougie Lamkin had his worst result in 7 years, conceding the maximum of 5 penalties on 3 sections on his first run, with no improvement during his second. The Briton finished 7th with 44 penalties, effectively ending his championship defence. Raga may have claimed the honours in Andorra, but Fujinami holds pole position heading into the final 3 rounds of the season, and Cabastani's just glad to get into the podium pictures for a change. Raga is the reigning indoor champion and is a serious contender to claim the outdoor title too. Lamkin slips down to 3rd place and now trails Fujinami by 19 points. Mathematically, he could still recover, but it's looking very unlikely that he will retain his title. Weather conditions for the motocross Grand Prix at Uddevalla in Sweden were ideal during Saturday's qualifying session, with sunny skies and warm temperatures. However, that all changed overnight as heavy rain and thunderstorms damaged the track, helping many riders to crash through the day. The first MX1 race didn't bring many surprises, as there was mainly one line to follow on the slippery track. Kevin Strabos went to the front early in the first heat and then controlled the entire race on his factory Suzuki, keeping his rivals 3 to 5 seconds behind him. He was followed by Brian Jorgensen and Michael Pichon. Even 7 times champion and runaway series leader Stefan Everts on bike 72 couldn't come to terms with the conditions and was wearing a lot of Swedish mud. Positions remained static and Strabos was able to claim a relatively easy win from Jorgensen, Pichon and Everts. However, that was as good as it got, as Strabos had a spectacular crash at the second start and eventually started with the rest of the field out of sight. That allowed Jorgensen and Pichon to fight for the lead. Jorgensen led the first 4 laps, but then his Honda teammate found a spot to get by. Everts also caught up with Jorgensen, and for a couple of laps the trio battled away for supremacy. Everts was second, but then he crashed on the 10th lap, giving second place back to Jorgensen. He got going again and finished third. Pichon held on to take the second race, and with it the overall win, followed by Jorgensen and Everts. Coming back from last to sixth in this race, Strabos finished fourth for the day. In the MX2 category, New Zealand's Ben Townley of KTM easily won both races to lead the championship classification with 427 points, 77 ahead of his biggest rival, South African Tyler Rattray. In the Premier class, Pichon's second win in a row means he consolidates his second place. Everts still leads the overall standings with 482 points. Earlier this month, the Losail International Motor Racing Circuit of Qatar was officially opened by Prime Minister of the State of Qatar, His Highness Sheikh Abdullah bin Khalifa Al Thani, in a special ceremony also attended by FIM President Francesco Zerbi and Dorna CEO Carmelo Espeleta. Then former 500cc Grand Prix racer Randy Mamola rode around the circuit for the first time on a two-seater Ducati Desmo Sedici MotoGP machine, watched by all the ministers of the Qatari government. Mamola is now a commentator and ambassador for motorcycle racing. The Losail International Circuit will host the 13th round of the 2004 MotoGP World Championship, the Grand Prix of Qatar, on October the 2nd. The circuit is 5.4 kilometres long and 14 metres wide. Its straight is over a kilometre long, 20 metres longer than Catalunya and second only to Mugello. After Mamola's demonstration laps, about 60 local Qatari riders got the chance to ride round the circuit. Displays by stunt riders and a spectacular fireworks show ended the ceremony. Normally, we try and end each episode of Drive with a funny or quirky story, but this week we have something a bit more serious to end up with. Jarno Trulli gets lots of attention as a Formula One driver. His first Grand Prix victory came in Monaco and he's fourth in the Drivers' Championship. Now, the likeable Italian has put his high profile to good use by helping the World Food Programme make a TV commercial that he hopes will ease the suffering of starving children.
In 5 seconds, my Formula One car can go from 0 to 200 kilometers per hour. Every 5 seconds, a child dies because of hunger. That's 720 children an hour, all day, every day. We can't stop time, but we can stop the dying. Food. There is no greater gift and no better way to give it. The World Food Programme. I am a lucky person and I've been traveling for a long time all around the world. I met different people, different countries, different culture, and I've seen a lot of good things, but also a lot of bad things. What I mean is that I've seen a lot of lucky people like me, which has got food, but I've also seen a lot of people which are dying for hunger, are dying because they have no food. And when I've been asked to be one of the partners and to represent the World Food Programme, I've been very proud to do that.
Last year, roughly 104 million people in 81 countries were aided by the charity's food programs. But each year, almost 6 million children under the age of 5 die of malnutrition in developing countries. Trulli isn't the only sports star to assist the WFP. Marathon world record holder Paul Tergat, himself a former beneficiary of the WFP's school feeding program, has also appeared in an advertisement. But back on the track, whether you're screaming in the streets, cutting it really fine, or just dropping off a mountain, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.